Hey y'all, it is July the 7th, 2018. I'm sitting here, it's raining. We got Bella right there. She don't know what to do. Well, we're just sitting here chilling. Earlier, a thought passed through my brain, alright? And I was thinking about things as far as Parkland. Marjorie Stoneman, Douglas, Parkland, Nikolas, Cruz, the whole deal. I was thinking about it, and something came to mind, and almost an epiphany in a way, but in a sense, I feel like I had already had the thought. I think that instinctually, something wound up drawing me to Nick Cruz, and I kind of had an idea, but I didn't really understand. Earlier today, like I said, I was thinking about it, and it really started to sink in and set in. All right, what exactly is going on here? And my interest in this whole case with Nick Cruz. And the thing is, the more and more I look at it, the harder I look at it, the more Nick Cruz strikes me as myself. I really, in many ways, relate to Nick Cruz. All right, in so many ways, it's very profound. But one of the ways that I was thinking about earlier, that a lot of people, they're considering, but not all the way, is that Nick Cruz he's not the character that has been described to you. All right, you might have heard a lot of celebrities tell you, I'm not exactly the person that the media portrays me to be. Lots of times they get me in certain ways, at certain angles, this and that, and they tell stories. A lot of celebrities have told you that. All right. And I'm here telling y'all, just to let y'all know, because I feel like I have an insider information on it, is that Nick Cruz certainly isn't the person that you've been told he is. You're trying to put together a story. A lot of people are out there trying to put together a story, thinking about, oh man, he's a loner, he's isolated, autistic. I mean, basically everybody knows he's autistic, ADD, this and that. They think about it as a stereotypical story. Like, of course this would happen. Of course he was bullied. Of course he was isolated. They didn't treat him good and stuff like this. And eventually he couldn't take the loneliness and the isolation. It was all by himself. I'm here to tell you that's amazing. It's amazing what they told you, and it's amazing that you believe it. But the thing is, they're very persuasive. All right, your news, sometimes people could be very persuasive and lead you to believe that this is Nick Cruz, that Nick Cruz is that person that you heard in the selfie videos talking about he's Dr. Evil and this and that, he's going to shoot everybody up, pew, 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 pew. They convince you that he's obviously a caged animal and was paid no mind. He was bullied all over the place, and yet and still we're supposed to listen to the very people who pretty much bullied him. All right, a lot of people aren't listening to those people. But what I want to tell you is that is not who Nick Cruz is. Quite clearly, if you listen to any sort of the witness testimony of the people who knew him, quite clearly that is not who Nick was. In fact, like I said, he resembles myself more and more. I can relate to him. I don't know about y'all. If you had the same experience in high school, I want to, not even high school, but all throughout school, I want to describe that real quick. And then that I feel like, kind of share a lot of it with Nick Cruz. I want to tell you that more than likely, because I've experienced it, Nick Cruz did not feel like a caged animal. He didn't feel all super isolated as you're thinking. He might have been bullied. A lot of people get bullied, right? A lot of people get bullied in varying degrees and stuff. Sometimes people get bullied by their friends. Oddly enough, man, sometimes children do childish things, believe it or not. All right. But to describe my experience, not only through high school, but through school, is people always, it was like, this guy's different. This little boy is different. Something different about him. He stands off in the corner. Right? And stuff like this. It'd be like, Always. I heard that from strangers. I heard that from teachers. I heard that from parents. I heard that from anybody who you could think of. Some different. Something different about you. And it was not always like in a positive light that they were saying this. All right. But that's always been the case. And I'm talking about students, fellow students, stuff like that. They would see me and think, well, something's. They didn't know what to call it. All right? I didn't know what to call it. Took about the bulk of 30 years of my life to figure out, basically, I guess you call it autism. All right, there were certain quirks about me, so we wound up figuring that out. But here's the thing: what I gotta explain to you is, I went to a school that's much like Parkland when you think about it. As far as just a lot of students, thousands, all right, of students. All right, they're conglomerated from middle schools that are all over the place, man. We're like bursting at the seams. With these buildings, in San Antonio, we always had to keep creating new public schools. There's always, like, public schools in construction all the time because we need more and more and more and more. Right? So that's just in San Antonio. I don't know how it goes in Parkland. But suffice it to say, there's a lot of students that go there. A lot of them. All right. In my experience, it wasn't that I was so caged off and isolated and alone. I wasn't very quirky. Lots of times I was the dude in the corner, just sitting there. All right, not even saying nothing. Like, it was, who knows what I was doing or thinking. All right, so that was me. But see, although people looked at me as sometimes different, I wasn't always in everybody's inner circle. What I had to explain to you is, for whatever reason, people knew me. Everybody, almost anybody who ever came around me. And stuff, they would always tell me, "Oh man, I seen you there, but I see you here," or whatever. They'd be like, "Oh man, this and that." People knew who I was. It wasn't so much that everybody came out the woodwork to talk to me. I'd be like the dude walking down the hall, many times not talking to nobody. All right, sometimes I'd talk to my brother Andrew, El Nino, man. He would come, and he would holler at me, but most people wouldn't. Most people wouldn't. Me personally, I didn't feel too bad about that or anything. I didn't really never think about it too hard, right? It wasn't that I was different. It was that I was kind of to myself. You might say, "Oh, he's off in his own world." I've heard that a lot. A lot of people will look at me walking down the hallways. And I kind of hit over and over. Are you lost? Are you lost? I look lost, and I look like alone sometimes. I guess I don't know, but that's how I operate. All right, that's how it's been. And I'm finding myself that I think that what it is that I'm relating to Nick in that way. You understand that, like, the people in that school claiming that it was Nick, claiming that they knew the whole time, that they talked about him, that maybe he would shoot up the school, they were always talking about it. Those people knew who Nick was. It wasn't as though Nick was an unknown. You understand? He's a personality that people knew who he was. The same deal with me. People knew who I was. And in fact, just the other day, and I'm 31 years old, just the other day, I met this person. They said they knew who I was from high school. I had no idea. I never met this person. All right, this young lady, or as she's my age, I guess. She said, "Well, I knew about you in high school. You're on the soccer team and stuff like this." Cruz, he was in a ROTC. So that's very similar. She was like, "You're on the soccer team. I knew who you were and stuff. I seen you around." And it's like people knew who I was, and I understood that. It wasn't as though I felt like a caged animal or something. Like, people might look at me and think, "Oh man, he that's a lonely type of. He's a loner. That's your typical loner over there. That's one of those quiet types. That's one of those. The quiet types are always the most dangerous." You know how much I've heard that in my life? A lot of times. It's a million times, billion. I heard people be like, "It's always the quiet ones that are the most dangerous." And I look at them and I go, "Yeah, probably is." Probably is. All right, I never shot up the school. I never thought about shooting up the school. I still don't think about shooting up people. I still don't. What I want to explain is, not only do I relate to Nick Cruz in that very way, it's not you've been told a totally different story in which everybody has made Nick Cruz feel so alone. Meanwhile, Nick Cruz, on record, had girls up in his room. He was showing the guns to him and stuff. He's putting his Mac down, believe it or not. I don't know if you know what it is. He knew what it is. Autism doesn't stop you from this at all. So he's living that life. He had friends at work. He had friends at work that he was making plans with. I mean, really, making plans with after the shooting as though he was never going to do the shooting. People at work knew him and liked him very much. People at work saw him in a certain kind of light. He was quite popular. He was still the quiet person, just like, in lots of ways, I'll be the quiet person who doesn't talk. At work, lots of times, I'll be that quiet person, don't talk much. All right. But still, even still, Nick Cruz was very well liked at work. Meanwhile, you have to understand that was not the case at school. Public school it does have that dynamic. It is different from your work. Right? Chances are, and a lot of people know this, chances are you're going to be more well liked at work than you ever were at school. Because school is some sort of rat race, is some sort of disgusting, like, oh, I got an A. No, I got an A. Oh, I got an A plus. No, I got an A plus plus. It's like, who cares? Who would possibly care? Right? And the thing is, I never cared. To be honest, like I said, just to run down like my high school career, I never did homework. And somehow I passed with A's and some B's and maybe a C or two and stuff. I never did homework. Didn't care about it. I didn't care at all. Couldn't make myself care. It's just something about me. I couldn't make myself care. And a lot of people might see that as like some sort of excuse or like me trying. I couldn't make myself care. There's no way. All right. And when I got to college, it was largely very different. That's why I basically flunked a lot of stuff and I wound up dropping out college because it was very different. All right. It actually was real, real hard. Okay. High school was a different thing. High school, it does, like a lot of people are understanding, it caters to narcissism in lots of ways. You got to understand to get programmed through the television. Not even through the television anymore because that's obsolete. These millennials and the Generation Z, they're on the internet. They be looking at this kind of stuff. And meanwhile, they're wilding out, and that's to be expected because they're seeing celebrities doing all sort of wild, crazy things, and they know that they're very disillusioned. They're birthed into disillusion. This generation, all right. There's a lot of people out there, hundreds of thousands, if just that, who come up in this weird system that we have in which, children are kind of grouped up and bunched up. They're not treated like individuals by any means. They're treated like cattle for the most part. They're put to themselves, left to their own devices in many times, and come from kind of like disturbing households. And so you'd be surprised enough to know that bullying happens when you leave children to themselves, to their own devices, when you group them up in this sort of a way and put them in a competition mode, which they're definitely in. They're definitely in competition mode 24/7 at the school. Bad bullying stuff starts to happen, believe it or not, sometimes. And it's not to where, usually it isn't rampant, but there'll be pockets of it here and there and everywhere in every sort of school. In every sort of school. All right? It's systemic, the problem that way. But meanwhile, the world still turns, Public schools are still going to operate the same way that they did yesterday. They're going to do so tomorrow, and they're still going to have many, many children who are very isolated in a sense, kind of maybe the same sense that I was. And that they're not unhappy or anything. They are loners for sure. All right, but it's not that they're discontent or anything like that. It's not that every loner is planning to, because that's where they're going with this. They're kind of trying to convince you, oh, well, every loner is liable to shoot up a school. It don't matter. It don't matter if you're a loner or not. People aren't shooting up schools, do you believe it or not? People, more often than not, are not shooting up schools. They might be very alone. In fact, it's much, 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 much more likely that person will just kill themselves. And that's terrible. That's terrible if they really do have problems. But bullying in and of itself, it doesn't start at the schools. Like I said, it's rampant in the schools by design. That's how it's designed to be. And it's also designed to stifle. And I know teachers, dude. I know world-class teachers in Tasmania, for example. It's designed to stifle creativity. It's designed to stifle intelligence. It's designed to stifle pretty much anything and everything that a child has to offer, basically. All right, we're still doing it. We're going to still do it. And it's going to be a lot of bullying involved. From here to Timbuktu, forever and ever, it's going to be bullying. All right. Obviously, you know, your best bet would be to shore up the schools and get them more secure. If you're really going to still have the schools the way that you're having them. All right. But I don't believe in these mass shootings. Most people are not believing in these mass shootings. And, you know, there's no evidence to support believing in these mass shootings. And meanwhile, there's hundreds of thousands, if not more, people who are in the exact same situation. I'm talking about every classroom in America. All right, are people that you could typically describe as loners. Meanwhile, it's really not that bad. I mean, it shouldn't be that bad as long as you have some good friends, I guess. Some people don't have good friends, all right, and that's a little bit worse. Some people don't have good parents. In fact, a lot of people don't have good parents. I'm here to tell you. Anyways, it's July the 7th, 2018. Anyways, you know, holler at me at, below if you're watching these videos. For whatever reason, I appreciate you and your thoughts and your disagreements and all this. And whatever you want to say down there, man, you know, just whatever. Have a ball. It's July 7th, 2018.